Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday here, making it a few minutes past 1100 UTC. A very big and warm welcome to everybody joining the stream live at the moment. We have been pumping over 10,000 viewers on these on Mondays and Wednesdays recently, which is an absolute blessing. Just want to say, appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for all the wonderful messages, the support, the following, the questions, bits and pieces you'd like to see on the show. It's been absolutely marvelous. And again, just a nice shout out here for OKX, our partners here at the Burb Nest. Now, as you can see on the screen at the moment, they are running an exclusive campaign. I just want to let you know about this. If you haven't traded with OKX before, it is a company that I've traded with for a lot of time. I was also out speaking on their behalf in Dubai earlier this year, and we'll be back again there later this year. And just a really good exchange, right? We've got the situation at the moment where we're going around the world. Different areas are restricted from other areas in terms of trading, what's going through with Mika in Europe. Obviously, the massive emergence that we're seeing in China and the regulation there. UK is different to the US, etc. So if you need a top exchange that is obviously you're able to use in your jurisdiction, then I would really recommend giving OKX a go. And you don't have to take it from me. I would never recommend anything that I don't use myself, okay? So at the moment, the reason I want to make you aware of this is they're doing a promotion for us. You get free access for 7 days to our paid private Discord group, including all of the calls, the education, access to the actual trading team, as well as Crypto Burb himself. And all you need to do is deposit, I think it's a minimum of $100 on OKX, and take your first trade with that. And then you're going to get either 600 free SOPH or HUMA, HUMA tokens. Ultimately, at the moment, the reason that I like things like this and the reason that we work on these kind of deals with our partners is because, you know, if these market conditions really do continue, if we really start to see these rips, if we see the capital rotation into these alts and these real lower caps, these are the type of projects that can run incredibly hot. All right. So it just gives you a good excuse to get some free exposure to that, get yourself a basket or a bag of those tokens, sit on them for a little while. Let's see if we get those conditions to play through. And if they do, then you've got yourself an absolute winner. All right. All you need to do for that, if you want to find out more information, is just pop across onto the Burb Nest Twitter. You can see it pinned on the profile. Or if you're having any issues at all, you can reach out. So without further ado, what are we looking at? So I want to review the trade setups that we looked at on Monday. All right, see how we've got on with those. I think some really nice kind of returns so far on Aster and Stable. Okay, but there's others we want to look at as well. Obviously, we've got Bitcoin on the chart at the moment, which we can see. But we're also going to run through some alts, and let's not forget that it's the Chart Request Wednesday. So we are here to take your requests. So let me know in the chat if there's something you want me to chart. Let's say hello to a few people in the chat. First of all, Craigie boy, wonderful to see you. Shy, always and ever present, you guys. Absolutely love it. He's not a request. We look at Joe, Trader Joe on AVAX. Sure, mate, we can definitely take a look at AVAX. In fact, I think we're going to cover BTC. We're going to cover ETH, BTC dominance. We're going to take a little cheeky look at Solana as well. We've got Aster. What else have we been asked for here as well? Let me just take a quick look. Had some requests coming in from you guys, which is wonderful. We'll pop AVAX down for you as well, mate. Obviously stable. That's the other one. Got a few really nice messages from people saying they've made a good amount of money on that and Asta. So let's take a look at those. They're just these beautiful projects in the moment where you've got the narrative, you've got the drivers behind it, you've got the market conditions that are allowing these things the time to breathe. And they're really, really kind of taking that on. Obviously, something like Asta, it helps massively to have CZ behind that as well. So let me just take a quick look at your messages as well. I think we've got the majority of them on here. What are we today, 24th? We've got that. We've got that as well. Beautiful. So I think that's all we've got. So guys, girls, if you have got anything you want me to take a look at, please just pop it in the comments and we'll take a look. Just going to pop myself back to the chats anyway. By the way, you can find it here. If you can't access this, you can see it in the comments. All right, you've got the link right there to the OKX Burb summer course. All right, so take a look at that. Jojo, our lovely Jojo, how are you doing, my friend? Wonderful to have you there. Aloha, Burnside. Feeling the Hawaiian vibes today. Oh, Joe USDT. Sorry, mate. Roger, we can do that for you. Sure. It's going to be a aggressive show running through that. So, okay. I'm going to take a look at AVAX anyway, because I freaking love AVAX. Well, more of a day trading element, but let's take a look at it anyway if we get time. Let's have a look. Oh, guys, loving the requests. Flying in. Might need to make this a longer show, but right. Joe USDT. Aero, please. Of course, Roger. No problem. I haven't heard of that one. AVNT. Michelangelo Madman, great name. Wisdom Linus, love that. Do you think the recent market structure we're going to see October? Great question. Let's take a look, right? I'm all right, thank you, Jojo. Thank you for asking. Quite good, actually. Had a very dear friends of ours wedding yesterday, so it was a really, really lovely. The whole day was just it was a beautiful thing. It's rare that I'll take a day off from the market. Thankfully, leaning pretty hard on the awesome trading team we have here at the Bird Nest. But it was just a beautiful day. And I think there's times like that where you reconnect with, old friends, family, stuff like that. It's good for the soul, right? So, okay, we've got these so far. So BTC, ETH, Bitcoin Dominance, Solana, Asta, AVAX, Stable, Joe, Aero, and AVNT. Oh, sorry, Slick30, and you were very polite about it as well. I will definitely won't forget you. Hemi. Oof, I love this. You can feel the vibes in the comments already that people are gearing up a little bit more for this progression in alt season. So it's going to be really, really interesting. Yeah, of course, JTH30AC. All right. Nice. Well, we're going to just absolutely smash through these then. Some of these won't have been charted or we'll just use fresh charts. I'm going to focus today on the daily and the 4 hours so that we can move through these quickly. If you do have a request for a specific asset and time frame, for example, you want to take a look at the daily, etc., please do let me know. It's just so that we can get through them a little bit faster. So before we do all of this, just want to draw your attention very, very quickly to the news. All right. These are really, really major catalysts that do affect risk markets. All right, and we are very much in a risk market in cryptocurrency, so let's be aware of these. We're through today on Wednesday, 24th of September. We can see the major things. Trump speaking here. By the way, for anybody that's new, the focus is the US markets. It's the largest market in the world. It has the largest effect on other markets, and the dollar is the world's reserved currency. Okay, it's obviously the world's biggest economy as well. So, as we're looking at this here, there's no major kind of catalyst. We've got new home sales later. That's going to be interesting. All right. Again, looking at this, plugging it in the health of the economy. Is growth there? Are people able to access finances? Is this healthy for the consumer and therefore with the home buyers as well, right? It's a massive multi-trillion-dollar industry, which is what we cover in terms of looking at companies like Estate X, for example. So as we see here, Thursday, this is key for me this week. Final GDP quarter on quarter and unemployment claims. Do keep an eye on those, especially if you're an intraday trader. We tend to see massive injections of volatility into these areas, but also make sure you're studying the preliminary data because most of the time the market's priced this in before we get the print. And as we look through here on Friday, we've got core PCE price index month on month, revised UOM consumer sentiment. All right. So just keep an eye out for those. There are some other little elements as well. And funny enough, Jojo, who's here with the chat, is normally on ball to let me know any bits and pieces that I've forgotten. All right. So let's get ourselves back to the chart and let's absolutely smash the next 45 minutes at looking at these and our setups. Okay. So Bitcoin. Starting here on the daily. All right. So daily 4 hour. Sorry, earlier as well. I mentioned we do daily 4 hour. What I meant is if anybody wants a higher or lower time frame for a specific asset, please do let me know. And Jojo, yeah, you're absolutely right. AVAX, Joe, AVNT, Hemi, and CRV. So let's start with Bitcoin. Understanding what Bitcoin is doing and where it is very, very important to the market for a number of reasons. But please forgive the lower time frame things on here. I haven't really had time to clear up the chart, but everything that are on these charts that we look at, if they're the same charts that we're using, then the TA stays the same. We only delete these things or clean them up in any respect on the live shows so that it holds accountability. So Bitcoin, where are we? We're back in this upper range, yeah? From the all-time high that was made in January all the way through to this level here that's really, really cleanly capping the market. Look on the weekly high of July the 7th. Look at the way price wasn't able to get anybody's above this area. Ultimately, when we did run this higher, this was the breakout people were looking for. If you weren't really patient enough and you're trading the higher time frames, then you probably got a little bit trapped in here, because this move lower, setting this bearish pin bar here, was, you know, I don't want to say obvious, but when you see candles like that, you should be looking at that and thinking, okay, buyers tried to exert dominance here and sellers, you know, took the market back off of them. So the chances are we get a corrective move lower. Target key liquidity pools or prior consolidations. Remember, in terms of this, we're always looking at price being in an auction. All right. So consolidations mean where price has achieved fair value. Buyers are kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe it's a little bit high here, maybe it's a little bit low, but I'm happy to buy the lows, sell the highs. This is value for price. And then we see these inefficiencies, these pumps, right? And then price starts to consolidate again. And that's currently where we are. So on the daily scale, quite simply, this is what we've been looking for. This will make more sense on the 4 hour when we cover this, but this is our key kind of pivot or support resistance here. We can see how this kind of bluey gray box supported price all the way through here. Price sold off. We expect rejection here, but it actually closed above. Treated it as a support again here, a little bit of support again here. Closed below, retest, sell off. Retest, sell off, retest, sell off. All right. Henceforth, why we want to see a daily close back above this area before we then start making a move back on the January high and ultimately the all-time highs. This, by the way, was the all-time high set on the 14th of July as well, right? These areas tend to be quite key liquidity pools as well. So let's have a look. Crypto Bianco live on Pump Fund, please. Sorry, you want me to take a look at the Pump Fund token, or was there something specific within that? If you let me know a little bit more detail there, mate, or provide a ticker, I will happily have a look for you. So on a daily scale, let's look at what price is doing. So we had this area here, spoke about it on the last live show. These are the kind of moves I really love to see. I'm going to show you a similar one on the 4 hour. This is a bearish gap, so an inefficiency, meaning, you know, we've come from a small consolidation here, prices broke down. This consolidation here means that if price is considered fair value, it will range around here for a while, right? Or it means that if we see a sharp move forward and these kind of areas aren't respected, then this is, you know, the origin of the market reversal. We then wait for the structural shift. We see the consolidation in here as price broke out, ultimately delivering bullish. Now, we have broken down here, but we did reach the key resistance. So quite simply, this move down here on a daily scale didn't give us any opportunity to get involved. We were looking for longs from this area, which obviously was achieved through here. This was just a complete flush out lower, and then just came down into this consolidation here that led to the move higher, meaning that you don't want to be shorting into these areas, right? The time to go short is if you get confirmation setups here, or whatever your kind of trigger entry mechanism is. You want to be short from resistance, long from support, or selling high, buying low. Sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, and you know, it's you know, a bit of a cliche, but it's bloody true as well. So where are we at the moment? Support. What did we say we wanted to see? Price step back into this upper range. Do we have that? We do. Now, typically when we're looking at ranges in any way, you're trading it from the highs to the lows until it breaks. You're looking for larger breakouts. If you get these type of moves, you get a deviation of the lows, price steps back in. We then expect price to move to the range highs, normally via some kind of midline here, right? And I haven't got a midline on here just because this was such a key area of resistance and obviously support through here. If we allowed this as a larger range from the high to the low being here to here, right, then this, you know, practically is a midline. So what does that all mean? All right, now I'm not massively bearish here at the moment, but I need to see a little bit more from price before I really want to move bullish. On a daily scale, we can see price is sold off onto this area. Yeah, This was, again, the high from back here in May. So we've seen acted as support here, acted as support here, acted as resistance through here. We're now back at this level. And I'm always just asking myself the simplest questions I can, because I am a simple creature. And that's, who's in control of the market here? Are we seeing bulls exert dominance here, or are the bears still in control? So what I now want to look at is say, well, this is the kind of area I want to be longing. Yeah. So how can I get a more granular approach to that as I look down here? Now, as I look here, remember on the daily scale, we saw this inversion here, which then, as you see, the more granular price action that takes place in here, this was the key area that we were looking to get long in the market. All right. Price came back up. We saw the rejection. We saw the structural shift in here, large expansion. These areas here ultimately are the dips are giving you, the buying opportunities. Henceforth, buy the dip, or if you're bearish, sell the rip. So what we want to understand here is what's controlling the market. Buyers are stepping in here, but this gap here, which we can see, is still suppressing price. So am I looking to long into this gap? Absolutely not. I would intraday consider shorts from these highs, which are relatively equal. Okay. Failure swing here, clean high here, within a gap, lots that could potentially reject price here. I'm not actually that interested in Bitcoin here. Here I am happy to long this up to here, because I want to be operating between support and resistance. Yeah. So on an intraday trade, from here to here, from here to here, no problem. But I'm not longing. The big red box should be the first thing that strikes you as, why is it red? Well, it's suppressing prices, keeping price lower. Do I want to be longing randomly in there? Not really. Like I say, I would consider intraday shorts. If I look at it on the 4-hour scale, we are holding bearish market structure, but I would only be scalping these down back to support here. I actually want to see Bitcoin back above this area here, which is our kind of local pivot. You've got small resistance through here, support here, decent buying opportunities into resistance, support here, good buying opportunity, good buying, and then look how how this changed. Yeah. We see within here, price starts to get these long wicks into these areas, pushing price up. And this one kind of looked okay. We got a wick below level, came into here. And then the idea at this point is you then want to see some of these areas recovered, but price didn't, just ultimately sold off aggressively. So with Bitcoin here, I want to see something like this. I want to see these kind of areas violated, price finds support here, and then some kind of level to level play like this, expecting resistance at these levels. I'd really want to see price fly through this. This is where I'd look to be an active participant to the highs. And then I want to see this area again, these consolidations. Look at this area here. This sent the market considerably lower. We want to see this flipped. Yeah, we want to see buyers take control of this areas that sellers are very, very strong. And that's the plan on Bitcoin. But really, the kind of thing with Bitcoin at the moment is I'm not massively interested in trading it. There's very limited upside on Bitcoin, in my opinion. Look, even if price went to almost 250K, then you'd be doubling your money here on Bitcoin, right? So that's fine. You can get a lot of great trades in there. You can get a lot of good intraday work. But if I look at some of the other assets where I can put my money, then I can look to get greater return from that. So how I'm looking at Bitcoin more than anything is I just want Bitcoin to stay in this range, really. I don't want to see any major breakdowns from Bitcoin. And if we see some major breakouts, I'd be concerned about it drawing the liquidity out of the market. All right. So if that's the case, that's where we want to be a little bit cautious. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use those same principles, and we are going to rip through the other assets that we're going to look at. All right. But if you've got any questions on that, you can pop them in the chat. I'll try and kind of not go too fast so everybody understands, but we're going to use those principles to assess on the others where we think these good opportunities are coming up. But first of all, we're also going to take a look at Bitcoin dominance, because that's so obviously intrinsic here to how we're looking at this. Yeah. So like we said, if Bitcoin's taking up too much of the market share, it tends to hog the liquidity. We see Bitcoin dominance go up, and then alts tend to struggle a little bit. At the moment, not so much of a concern. We can see prices still kind of trapped again, ranging in this area. This is a really key level for me. It always has been since I've been into crypto, 57.71. Obviously, we just want price as low as possible. We lost this level, which is fantastic, because this was the area, as we see from these breakdowns here. If you want to go on Bitcoin dominance, there's a really easy thing you can do as well. Go on here, go to the plus symbol, get something like Ethereum up, click new price scale. And we can see very clearly here, the red line is how Ethereum's moving. versus Bitcoin dominance. And look, when Bitcoin dominance is selling off, we see that, the risk bid come in a lot more to riskier assets like altcoins. Okay, so that's why we're looking at that. And again, you can make comparisons of any of these yourselves using TradingView. You can just go onto this, compare symbols, and then if you wanted to, for example, you could add the NASDAQ in there as well to try and get a little bit of confidence from, okay, how the NASDAQ moving with risk assets or riskier assets like this? Is this moving in confluence, which we can see it is? Yeah. So just a good way to kind of compare different assets sometimes. The price ultimately here on Bitcoin dominance is here. We want it to be targeting the box down here. I don't particularly want to see any major breakouts of this. If we start to see real strength coming into there, I really think we could see a little bit of a pullback here on alts as Bitcoin starts to dominate the liquidity. So that's all we've got really on Bitcoin dominance. Now let's move across on to ETH. I think we did ETH with our friends over at Binance, didn't we? Yeah, here we go. So ETH. This is the plan that we laid out on Monday. We can see we're now down at this key kind of level. We can see what the plan is that we're looking to achieve here. This was a really clear range here for me as well. Using the volume profile, we can see the blue line here, the value area high. We got the value area low here. Again, look how well this supported price through here. We got the deviation of this level. Price stepped in, underside retest, sell off, underside retest, sell off. Price is now closed outside of the range here. So we now need to see if we're doing this. Yeah, deviation, price steps back in the range, we trade to the other side of the range. Let's not forget we've got the point of control here as well, the red line telling us where the majority of trading is taking place. In fact, we can even move this forward a little bit more now for more data, but you see it stays in pretty much the same place. This is where the highest amount of trading has been done from a volume perspective. So now I just want to see price back in this range and pushing higher, as we can kind of see from this kind of diagram here. All right, we kind of got the early stages of this now. We have run into this level, but we have just dipped down into this. I would have really loved for us to take this low. All right, but what I want and what the markets give are often at odds with one another, and henceforth our job as traders is to kind of cut through all of that noise and make ourselves clearly defined areas that we want to be involved. Now, as we move here to the 4 hour, yeah, we get a lot more data in here. We can see the aggression within here, the sell-off. But we can also see that the price is really kind of struggling, or sellers are struggling to impose themselves here at the moment, okay? So we can see price kind of this week has just been stuck in this little range here. So if I was looking at this in terms of trading, I'd be saying, great, well, I've got a really nice, clearly defined range in here. I can just ping this thing backwards and forwards intraday. But looking at this on the higher time frame, the plan is still the same. I want to see price back within this range. And if we get rid of this for a moment, just look at what the chart is telling us. There's a really key thing that we focused on last time, right? Which is looking at where are the buyers clearly in control of the market and where are the sellers clearly in control, right? Now, if I just want to highlight all these key lows here, I'm saying support here, support, 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 support. Support all the way through here led to a massive bloody pump, all right? So just do this in bright green. If I then look left and say, is there an area controlling this? Is there a consolidation where price was considered fair value that's controlling, that the buyers remain in control of? Then it's this. If I look at the down close candles here that lead to the move higher, this kind of area is of interest. So if I extract this area across, right? So let me make that a little bit more accurate here, sorry. If I extract this area across here, and this is what I would call an area of mitigation. So this is kind of I can't even remember what color I already used. So it's kind of like a very light purple or dusky pink, I think. So hopefully you guys can see that. I don't like them to be too obtrusive, but what have we got? Buyers have massively controlled this area since this breakout. They're still trying to buy it. Sellers pushing back, sellers overwhelmed. Buyers took control, ultimately driving back up into this consolidation here that we then see reject the market lower. Okay, so now where are we? Well, the issue that I've got with this at the moment with ETH is if we look under here, we're clearly, testing into this underside. So the buyers that were very prominent here have now really been cut through. I now either need to see price back above this, show me that the buyers are now in control. The longer that we remain below here, the more chance there is that we're driving lower. Again, not looking to actively short this. This was the place to actively short it when price drove back into the box, because we got loads of confluence here, right? We had this big bearish gap. We can clearly see the wicks being rejected here. We swept out this high as well. So a really clean trade down into here. And then the long from support back to the area of rejection was in here. Unfortunately, we swept this just before London this morning. However, yes, as our Polish friends would say, it is what it is. All right. So for me, the safer plays are, we need to see price back above this. In doing so, I'd love to see these gaps filled and closed above. Then I think we look to these areas of consolidation to act support for price to move higher. So again, a little bit of a patience game at the moment. Want to see price back above this area and looking to rip. Not all alts are going to look like this, but a lot of them are. All right. So let's take a look at Solana. Right, see a nice colourful chart here on Solana. I'm just going to move this across here. We see this on the daily scale. Why we were looking at this area and this area here to offer that support. This is in green. You typically won't see them in green on my chart. It's just to symbolise for Monday's viewers that this is a bullish area of demand. All right, price sellers here, buyers to control. Mitigation play was as price draws back down into this area here. It lets those sellers get out of their position and minimise their loss and then jump on board. And you often see these large expansions higher. The reason this was highlighted is this is the top of those down close candles here, this consolidation that sent price higher. So we were looking for the original retest of that, which looked quite positive here. On Monday, started to get that pushback, but then price starts drawing back into this. So this is still a key area here. However, we need to see at least a turnaround on the lower time frames here to start getting into any positions higher. So just to run through the plays on here quickly, we can see this was the bullish gap, supported price here, closed below it here. So now we're just going to take that off the chart just so it cleans it up. But this is an area in the underside of this that we would expect price to potentially reject. So 4 hour gives us our cleanest view on here, and we can see what the plan was previously. We wanted to see price up above this area. We got the close above, we got the retest, price rejected at this higher. Then what happened? This area that we're looking for price to provide support gets closed underneath, and look how it then becomes resistance, selling off again. Why? Because we had buyers starting to exert control here. We saw the rejection, price getting back down below this area here, the area that was fiercely contested. Price drove back into this area here. Ultimately, sellers got control. How we can see that here is looking by monitoring these candles. You can see as price moves higher, what we're looking for are these black candles here, these bearish candles for price to close above, respected. So what we want to see to confirm the breakdown is when price starts to change that dynamic. And what we see here is the up close candle sweeps liquidity, price breaks down here, closes underneath. And it's at this point within here that we start to target shorts into these lows, but ultimately our higher time frame target here as well, which is this daily demand area. So anyway, as I'm looking at this here, I obviously want to see some kind of similarity. I want to see if price is going to get bullish here. What do I need to look at? Well, again, it's a little bit of a tricky one. We want to see price kind of breaking out for this area. What kind of area is controlling price here at the moment? Well, you know, looking at this in here. So this is the low of this line is our bearish order block. All right, so this was the up move that led to price selling off lower. What I want to see is price coming above this. And then we start taking some trades up into these inefficiencies in here. I'm going to be careful when we get back to this kind of area here, or even into these lows, because this is what led to the pump. So we could see a rejection in here. So again, I would look to kind of feather into this position, starting to build some intraday trades that you can then always pyramid into some swings. But typically with stuff like this, I would look for these kind of 15-minute setups, right? So just to show you that. A few people ask me about execution, and I don't really cover execution too much on here. I think it's quite a personal thing. Some people like using, you know, like CBD confluence and bits and pieces like that, which I do as well. But ultimately, you know, if you've got good risk management and you're understanding, you know, your trading model, then, you know, if this is your area of rejection, what I favor, I do favor trading at liquidity sessions, meaning when the highest volume and volatility is within the market, normally within the London and US trading sessions. So we're aligned with traditional markets. But I'm looking for these kind of moves where price is jabbing into highs. This is for sure, obviously. And then the rejections that we see do a couple of different things. So I want to see local or otherwise liquidity taken. So even something like this is enough. We see price comes in, takes a sweep of a higher. We look to the left here, we can see a consolidation. This was the move, the up move before a big sell-off. If we extrapolate that across, we can see we're in a key area that price would look to reject. That's not enough for me here. I need to see local liquidity taken, which we see in this move here. But then I need to see a few other things. I want to see a structural shift, right? So I look at microstructure probably more than most people would. For me, a high is just a high that's flanked by two lower highs. A low is a low that's flanked by two higher lows, right? So it's just a 3-candle pattern. I keep it nice and simple. So as we look at this here, we can see we have a few different things to target on. We can see how price runs into the high. This whole move here is just inducing people long, yeah? Then when the breakdown happens, I want to see that aggression. I want to see that fast, aggressive move back in here. And then whether you're somebody that's looking, like I would teach, for example, to wait for that structural shift and then to identify where the breaker is here, right? The down move before the sweep of liquidity, price trades back here. You see price return to this area. We've got this big, beautiful bearish gap here as well for confluence. And then we see this rejection, which we can trade into key liquidity pools lower. Here's another example here, price driving back up. I like this one even more because it's within the New York AM session, all right? We get the drive up here into the highs. We see the small structural shift in here. We get that momentum drive down lower here. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have returned for the breaker entry here. All right, price just was very aggressive in the sell-off, but there's another entry opportunity here. And ultimately, this is one that gets away as well, right? Because the break of that low did happen over Asia, was just a super aggressive sell-off. But just to give some context of how you can kind of look into that, you can then use things like CVD, like we've got here, and then you can look for divergences. Let me just actually zoom in on that so it doesn't look like complete nonsense. Yeah, or you can look for these absorption candles at the highs. Yeah, so when you're looking for these kind of breakdowns, what you really want to see here are discrepancies between the two. Yeah. So for example, if you're looking here, you've got a large bearish candle to the downside, a lot of volume going into selling that. But actually, we just kind of set a little pin bar candle here. So you're kind of saying, okay, then as we kind of move across to here, the retest of this level, yeah, if we look at this candle here, you've got a big bearish engulfing candle here. It didn't really take that much sell pressure within here. So we're looking at those discrepancies when volume and price action kind of disagree, or we're looking for divergences. But that's, you know, an entire course in itself to kind of study that. But you don't, you know, ultimately you can have a mechanism where you're shorting order blocks. You can look for breakdowns in price. You could just be looking to short a particular level. If you sweep that level with an ATR stop loss above, the whole key here is that understanding where price is most likely to react. Okay. So anyway, to kind of finish that, I just wanted to give you guys a bit of context. I do get quite a lot of questions about that, and people always say, you know, traders aren't showing their entry techniques, blah, 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 blah. They're hiding it. There's no secret to it, believe me. Yeah, there's loads of different ways you can enter and exit the market. The key is having a way that's repeatable and that you get, you know, a consistency of either pattern or area or a set of confidences that you're looking for, and that you can match that with risk management. So long above here. Do I want to short this at the moment? Not really. If we reject at this gap, I would consider intraday down into these lows. But in terms of getting bullish here, because I'm bullish in terms of the macroeconomic view, I'm bullish in terms of the fundamental view, we're bullish in terms of when we look at market data, we're looking at more cuts coming on the horizon, so ultimately fueling a risk-on environment. So I'm more interested here positionally in finding when I can get involved in being bullish rather than, you know, shorting this. Anyway, so close above here, look to flip this area, and then I think we can move higher from here. If not, if we reject this area, I think we probably keep pushing down a little bit lower, you know, take out some of these liquidity within the lows. But while we hold this higher time frame area of demand, should hopefully at least, you know, when we engage with some of these areas, give us some potentially decent long setups. Ankit, how is AVAX, ADA dot and INJ? Well, we're going to come on to a few of them in the moment, my friend, and entering them is totally up to you, but I can certainly give you my views on where I would look to be a market participant. So we've got about 25 minutes left, and we are going to rip through Asta, AVAX, Stable, Joe, Aero, AVNT, Hemi, and CRV. So let's not mess around. Let's take a look at our friend Asta. Asta was a really simple chart for us. We longed the box, and yeah, the rest is history, right? This is much more of a fundamentally driven project. We've got very little price action to go on here, so it's just about identifying dips and areas to be involved in the market, well, you can go back and look at the show. This is the area that I bought, and yeah, playing out really well. I actually missed the initial pump on it, so I was really begging for a pullback. This, for anybody that doesn't know, is CZ's new baby at the moment. This thing is absolutely tearing faces, massive competitor for Hyperliquid, and very hard to fade someone like CZ in this environment. If you align that environment with what is typically favouring the bullish trades, then you're in really good nick, I think, for a fundamental view. And then the technicals come much more about just finding those good areas to enter. So this was the play here on Asta. So I know what some of you are going to be thinking, like, okay, fuck, well, I've missed Asta on this second pump now. Where would be a good place to get involved in this? Well, as long as those conditions retain, then I'm either looking for these inefficiencies to rebalance and then for price to move higher, or I'm looking for, I'll just do this in green so it stands out as a bullish area. Yeah, down close candle, price closes above, retest, sends it higher. Down close candle, price closes above, retests it, sends it higher. Down close candle, price closes above. Yeah, a bit of a skinny close, but does retest it and moves higher. So if we are trending on any asset, what we're looking for are these gaps, like we did with this one here, or we're looking for these areas of demand or order blocks, and then we're just looking for these to be respected as we staircase our way higher. Now, I'm invested in Asta, but in a spot capacity. I'm not trading this on the futures market and using leverage, right? So for me, my plan is quite simple. If we retest these areas, I'm just buying some more. If we retested this area, I would buy some more, all right? I would probably stop if we close below this area here, because this seems like the origin of this move to go higher. And then, for example, if we did close below this and then reclaim it, that's where I would start to become a buyer again. Because like I say, my buy-ins are around about here, about 3, 3, 4, about this area here, all right? And that's Asta. Just brilliant, strong asset, fantastic fundamental backing. Do go and check out KZMXBT, who's head of our fundamental team over at the Bird Nest, who was really, really early to this. And thankfully, members really printing on this one, which is always nice to see. So let's take a look at AVAX. I can't remember what one we did this on, actually. Let's maybe just get a new... Oh, okay. This was obviously a lower time frame, and we can see we've got some eligible squiggles here. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, fuck, what a buy zone that was for AVAX. We got the close above, which signifies we've then set the order block here. Price did run hot. It was very, very difficult to get into it up here. But then ultimately what happened was we got the perfect retest of this area. The reason that line is there is the same reason the green ones that I drew on the previous chart. So let me just make those green so that they stack up the same. Otherwise you might be thinking, what? Typically you'll always see them as black on my chart, but for people that are maybe new, find it helps to kind of color code these to kind of say, okay, what do we get? Closed above these, the bearish candles. So we look for this area, we look for longs within this area unless we close below it. Yeah, in which case we then look for that area to be mitigated, and returns to that area can then potentially provide good shorts, especially intraday. So now where are we? Well, price drove back down. This was a great buying opportunity. Why? Because we never retested it. We closed above it here, never came back down for the retest, moved into this. I'll show you this on the lower time frame, which is how we were looking to play the breakout of this trend line. At the moment, if I wanted to be long here on AVAX, it's a little bit of a tricky one because we've had this really kind of big move higher. Looking back on this here, I'm asking myself, what's controlling the market here? And we can see it's this bullish gap. So I think at the moment, my thought process would be price is kind of making a move for this high. Filled on liquidity here, came back down, buyers stepped in aggressively, set this high, took a rejection. Why did we take that rejection? Because, ultimately it's key high up here, price swept, rejected down below. So now we're kind of trapped between these two. I wouldn't look to short in this area here. Consider maybe shorting from here again intraday, but look at the structure here. It's looking really bullish, really beautiful. Higher highs, higher lows. We saw all these higher lows really start to compress price into this triangle. It's why we identified this as our key area here for a breakout. And we did. And now we flip that control here at the box, moving higher and now respecting the order blocks. In terms of continuation plays, then I would like to see price above this. We haven't set that yet. Down close candles, expansion above here, take out this high, and for price to show that we can hold this area here, right? So something like this. If price closes below this, Then I expect price to come back down to this consolidation and potentially this low. Okay. So this consolidation within here, nice wick retest here, key liquidity below there, key liquidity above here. Hold this area here, price moves up for this, and then we need to see how it reacts above here. Yeah, hold this area, rejecting this area here or before and close below this. Price is probably seeking liquidity a little bit lower down. We have this consolidation and this low. In terms of the 4 hour, just to show you, I think this was it's probably even done on the 15-minute, but looking for price to come close above this. We got the close above this level here, which was setting the order block. That was obviously from previous TA because we were looking at that here for this close, which is what that represents, which we got here. Price again drew back into this area. We were looking for support and we got that beautiful expansion higher. I think we might have even been looking at some kind of 15-minute breakout play here. Yeah, and like I said, price just absolutely ripped when it took off from here. So it was actually pretty tricky kind of getting those entries. But the 4 hour was really, really key for us here to understand when these levels were giving way. Resistance through here on the trend line, rejection, consolidation, strong breakout, worked really, really well. But again, just look how clear the plan is on the daily. I always want to be trading from the clearest possible plan. I'm just going to get rid of that now because we've seen we got the breakout. We don't need to dick measure on these things, right? And I'm also going to get rid of that squiggly stuff in here because it's just adding noise to the chart. We got the breakout. Great. We don't need to justify that further. Plans now are really simple. Close below this area and invert this. I expect this to become resistance, and drive price down into these lows, close above this here, and then let's see how we respond within here. But ultimately bullish on AVAX at the moment. Should look at Grivaldo. Hello, mate. Grivaldo Aldo. XPL, I don't know, mate. I certainly can't comment, unfortunately, on its fundamentals. I have a wonderful team that do that for me. I'm, much more a trader and an analyst than I am, a fundamental analyst. Much more work on the technical side. So while I've got a good understanding of fundamentals, thankfully, I've got excellent people around me who are exceptional experts in that. But do reach out, to the Bird Nest, to the fundamental team. I'm sure they'll be happy to comment and help on that. And look lighter, as in I should lose some weight, or there's a project called lighter. Because funny enough, I'm on a pretty aggressive dieting plan at the moment. I'm not in any way fat, but I do like to keep myself in very good shape. And I kind of got back into that mode a bit more lately. So hopefully I am looking a little bit lighter. Right, let's look at stable. Let's look at this beast. Just no data here, right? So, hey, Beaver Ninja, how we doing, my bro? Great to have you with us. Real old friend of the channel. And still, I just have to put this out there, I still think probably the best name in the game. So, as we're looking at this here, we can see on the daily, there's just absolutely nothing, right? So we were driving this down onto the real low time frames here and just identifying these, right? These were the plays. It was very simple. Whilst we hold the consolidation, you can go back and take a look at Monday's show and last week's show as well. While we hold this, we are just looking to add for price to move higher. No problem. I added more here. Whereas the other place we were looking to add back down at the consolidation, as you can see by the big, beautiful blue scribbles. Did we get that sharp, aggressive move below resistance? Did we retest it and then break structure? No. That's, by the way, what that means in BC alien chart language, right? Strong move lower, yeah. Expansion lower, price finding resistance here, chopping, sweep of the high on the lower time frames, breakdown, retest, sell off. Where would I be looking to be a buyer? Back within here. So now we're here with stable. I would just extend this box across and I'd just be buying this up as much as I possibly could, in truth. But that's just how I'm playing. I don't suggest you go and do the same. Ultimately, all of your decisions are your own, as mine and my own, just kind of trying to plug you guys into my thought process. What I like about this is it's now starting to respect bullish price delivery, right? So we've got a game plan in front of us. What are we doing, right? We can see, again, price reacted here. We got our bullish order block. Yeah, down close candle, nice expansion high, closed above this one here as well. And then in terms of where price is delivering from, we can see the nice bullish gap, yeah? Nice expansion higher, price took out these highs here, managed to close above them, dip back down into this gap. So while we hold these areas, this is still for buying for me. Yeah, happy to be kind of adding here and here. Like I said, if we broke down from here, I'd wait for price to probably come back down to this area here, this key consolidation. I'm not sure that's going to be enough. But until we close back below this, just looking to add just looking to add these at key levels. And I think that was a really good add back down here, obviously involved in this consolidation down here. I think it was available to members at this price as well, or, put across to members from the fundamental side until we break down below here. Ultimately, I think this thing's still going to remain bullish. Yeah, absolutely. Good reminder there, Jojo. So we are coming on now to Joe, Aero, AVNT, Hemi, CRV. All right, so let's rip. Let's go, Joe. Here we go. We traded Joe. Might have a little bit more data on here. There we go. Right, so I'm just going to do a real quick fire here for the last kind of 13 minutes and have a very quick sip of incredibly cold tea. Lovely. Right, so this is an interesting one, this, isn't it? It's kind of stuck within this consolidation at the moment. What's controlling the market? What's controlling the market? What's controlling the market is this. Just do that in red so it stands out right. How did I identify this? Well, if I'm looking at where the key points of resistance are, grab a line, put it across the chart in a rough area and say, price rejected here, it's currently rejected here, it's rejected here as well. You can kind of see that level down there. But if you draw it back and say, well, there's a rejection here as well, where's the origin of that rejection? Yeah. This move here, price sold off, retested. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit for people watching this on their phones. And that up close candle, rejected at this consolidation, bearish gap, price sells off, retest this area, confirms this as a bearish order block or point of supply, price sells off. All right. Then what happens when we get back here again? Price sells off again. Then price kind of gets back to here, doesn't touch it perfectly, but again, that area price sells off again, and we now rejected here. So what's my safest play here on Joe? Well, if this is everything that's rejecting price, what's supporting price, right? If I look down here, where are the lows? Buyers here, buyers here, buyers here, right? Again, draw a rough line above it, get it to the point that it engages with as much of that as you can without being too greedy. And I would kind of say, yeah, actually kind of something like that. It's nice and clean. Would have been a great buy here, great buy here, great buy here, here, here. Nice, okay? You can look further back as well, but ultimately this is more than enough. Then if I'm looking for some form of consolidation within here, so I'm looking for this down move, right? What's kind of supporting price? Well, one thing I would say is back here, we've got a very small kind of order block. This kind of ran in deep. If I'm looking locally, I can see that these candles here, so these are the consecutive down close candles that control this area when they're closed above, are quite clearly supporting price. So that's what's capping the downside for me. All right, just looking at this locally. So I'm kind of saying to myself, well, you get good intraday buying opportunities through here, and price seems to be selling off here at the moment. So I've got two opportunities to play this. I wait for price to come and clear out some of this liquidity at the lows. Yeah, break some structure, and then I can be a participant here. I can buy within this area, okay? Or I wait for price to break out above this, yeah? And then we wait for something like that, and that's where we look to be buyers. Yeah, because this is what's controlling the market in terms of prices rejecting here, and this is where buyers seem to be willing to step in. I need to see a breakout of this area here to tell me the price is seeking new value. Either that, or I want to be buying the lows of this area here. In fact, I would go as far as kind of moving that a bit lower here. I think I'd like to see these lows taken out. I think they're equal lows, they are, right? So see price do something like this. Because then what I can do here is, if I'm a buyer here, I know where I'm wrong. Price starts breaking out below here. You cut the trade, you take your 1R loss, and you step away. But if not, what I can do here is I can trade it from here into these highs. I can then mitigate my risk at these highs by taking profit, moving my stop loss up, and then wait for the breakout of this. If price ultimately rejects back down, we can just continue to play this as long as price continues to be ranging between here until we get the confirmed breakout or breakdown, okay? That's how I would look to be playing Joe, Aero. Used to be a banging chocolate bar, actually, an Aero. I'm showing my age here, but when we were in school, we only just kind of got vending machines, really. And I remember Aero used to be the real key one in there. Probably the only mint chocolate that I do really tend to eat. Grivaldo. What we got? No, I mean, you should check out the lighter token. It'll be TGE soon. Like to be. Okay, I'm going to try it, mate. Hang on. See if we can get in the next 8 minutes. All right. I'll take a look. I agree. And Craigie boy, I agree. I think the link to AVAX could mean this is one to watch. Yeah, exactly. And there's some good technical levels to back that up as well, right? Aero. Right. Okay. This one looks quite nice, actually. That's higher highs, higher lows, maybe a little bit of a structural shift kind of going on here. Where would I look to be a buyer here? Well, it seems like price has been quite content running out this low at the moment. So see how this thing reacts from here. In truth, it depends what kind of conviction you've got in the project, right? If I look across here, where do we have key support through this area and then resistance through this? Yeah, we've got, Joe, we've got AVNT, Hemi, CRV, and we'll try and make a little look at lighter at the end if we can, yeah? Is this who this is? Is it Jojo? Aerodrome Finance? Nice. Well, actually, there's quite a nice little pointer here. It's not the cleanest thing in the world, but if we look at the lows, key lows, and we try and overlay them with these here and here, that's a pretty decent pivot here, I would say. That kind of area. Maybe it goes a little bit higher, but if we use the bodies of this to show the respect that we've had in terms of the rejection, maybe price kind of draws back down a little bit lower to this area, which is fine. It's ultimately got the untested order block within here as well, so maybe it does move a little bit low. We will look at this in a moment on the 4 hour to find some more aggressive plays within here, because for where I would like to see this, I'd either want to be buying the sweeps of these lows, which has just taken place. So again, now it would either be that, or I would then look to get involved at this low. Yeah, aggressive, right? That's an aggressive play. The less aggressive play is kind of looking across here and saying, okay, well, where's the origin of this move lower? What's controlling the market to the downside? So I then want to see, the close above here. All right, so expansion above here, price getting comfy in here, trading it up into the highs here, and then I think it could really rip. Just looking at this on the 4 hour, if I wanted to really be aggressive here, if I had a lot of conviction, we've got a pretty thin move coming down through here. Just kind of try to, because this is set, it's a really nice strong pattern on the way up, higher highs, higher lows, right? It's quite tricky here because you don't really have any flat lows or areas that's clearly kind of capping the market. So we would need to kind of align our fundamental narrative here. But what I would say is, if we're setting this as a higher low, this is the first higher low. Yeah, so seeing price kind of trade above this here, I think would be, yeah, again, strong breakout, looking for this area to be retested and then for price to move up from here. That's where I would be on Aero. This is a very aggressive play here. Obviously, the daily needs a little bit of recovery. We haven't shifted structure really to the downside here. We've had that large move, but we would need to see a lower high and then a real kind of sell-off here. So as it sits, I think this is a good reaction at that low. I just think that, I'd want to see at least price start to get some bullish structure in place with some strong expansions and then look for these areas to be retested. You're wrong below here, playing it up into here. If I got stopped out of a long trade from around about here, I'd wait for these lows to be run. AVNT. What have we got here? Near is setting up as well as it. I'll definitely take a look at that later, Jojo. Okay, so AVNT, not a lot, obviously, as we can see here. We saw the classic sell-off as we got here, recovered this, down close candle, showed you price wanted to move a bit higher, closed above this high, showing there was definitely impetus here from the buyers, and we got a lovely retest of this gap. So again, this is one that's kind of got away from us a little bit already, because this would be the key buying area. But let's just take a look on the lower time frames here, see if we can grab a slice of the continuation play. This is very clustered in here, actually. Very tight price action. What I'm going to do here is drop to an hourly. Let's just... It's a little bit trashy, this price action, actually. You can see this a little bit with slightly illiquid assets. Michael, hello, mate. Okay. It's by far not the cleanest, right? But if I just kind of look at this area, what can I attribute this to? I could attribute it probably to this block. To this block here, right? Breakout, setting this order block. Support, support, close below, resistance, 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 deviation, but still held it resistance. There we go. I would buy this, or I would look to, if we had a strong expansion above here, and again looking for these retests to be a buyer, sorry, into these highs, yeah, but then stepping through it level to level. I think that's the play. That's what I'd be happiest with here. Quite tricky to pick this one in actually, but ultimately what you're doing there as well, closing above this, is you're closing above this consolidation that has led to the downside here, and then within this we've got these clean highs here that price does love to attack from a liquidity perspective. What was that? AVNT. Let's take a look at Hemi. Okay, this is a really new one. Let me just maybe we've got a little bit more. Yeah, here we go. So just a newer listing on Binance, right? More history in here. Wow, this has been a bit of a rocket ship, hasn't it? So this is, again, beautiful, right? Look at the bearish candles here, price closes above, bearish candles here, price closes above, bearish candles here, price closing above. We're not closing below. The bullish candles, price is ultimately just pretty giga bullish here. On a daily scale, I would probably try and be, well, I would definitely be patient here and I would wait for this. If we get the close and price doesn't rebalance this gap, then this will probably be a decent area to get involved. Do quite like this area here as well, though, I have to say, if we did get a deeper retrace, just purely because, you know, this consolidation here before the breakout wasn't retested. We've got this gap here, another gap emerging here. If we did see a quick flush, I think this would be a nice place to get involved in the market. Let's move this down onto a lower time frame, see if we've got any kind of clean setups. Again, this was a beautiful move. Look at just the nice clean recovery here, reacting at the bullish gap, inverts the bearish gap here. We get a breakout. Again, this area hasn't been retested. We have just closed above here, though, right? So for the real aggressive players, this is the 4 hour. We've closed above this here now. You know, trades back down into this area and then good low time frame setups. Let me do that again. Trades down into this area here. I mean, you know, in a real ideal world, we come all the way back down into this as well and do something like this. Right, looking for that structure shift on the lower time frames, respecting these areas, but that could equally happen, something like that, or even like that. All right, but that's the kind of play that I would be looking for. That, or from slightly higher up to respect this on the lower time frames. I probably wouldn't really want to, well, not probably, I wouldn't want to drop this any lower than the 4 hour. I like the daily gap that we've got here, and maybe we come back to this consolidation. If we continue to break down, if we got a move like this, where we got a sharp move down into this consolidation here, right? But then you see one of those type nice kind of bullish recoveries. So you see like a pin bar type candle that looks like a freaking lollipop, but long wick down here. As long as we hold this box, then I think clear the liquidity from here. Good area to long here, good area to long here. So that's what I'd be looking to do in terms of Hemi. Obviously, these projects are very fundamentally driven. Make sure you've got an eye on the narrative and everything that's going on in that respect. CRV. Right, take a look at this. I think we can safely say we can get rid of all of this now. This did a great job. We were looking at this previously for a power of 3, failed to get the expansion, failed area, came back down below the block here, exactly as we've been discussing. Beautiful rejection, and the same here within this weekly inversion. That was really clean TA, but you know, we don't need that on there anymore. We can just save it as historical data. Right, daily CRV. Where are we with this beast? Probably back below this point here. Rejection from these highs, support through here, right? Look, you can see the support candles through here. Rejection through here. Difficult to get an exact kind of level on this, right? But if we're just trying to bring in all of these key kind of sell-off points and where price was offering support, this is probably a good area in terms of a pivot here. You know, support through here, breakdown, retest, sell-off, retest, bigger sell-off, retest again, sell-off. Price tried desperately to hold this area, but we have shown a lot of weakness coming through this here. A couple of plays here that I'd be looking for on CRV is a reclaim of this area. And then we've got beautiful liquidity to drive into this up here, this trend line liquidity here. You can also take the trend line itself. Don't like kind of really going through the bodies here, but you could look at something like that, for example, to add in a little bit of something extra. In terms of saying, okay, rejection here, rejection. If we do get that strong move, we break out from this level, looking at the retest of this. The kind of key area I would be looking for here, actually, I'd first of all want to see this high taken out, so we've shifted structure. But then I would be looking at this here, which is the breaker line. All right. Why? Because you had this large move down. We could invert this. If we can shift structure to the upside and get back above here, we would then print this as the breaker candle. This is the up move before the sweep of liquidity. Price moves higher, violating the area that sellers are in control of, and then we look to take our long positions from there on CRB. That is clean AF on that one. And let's take a quick look at lighter as well. And Kit, I'll do my absolute best for you, mate. Dr. Kamina, you can just move back a little bit. We've covered AVAX already, my friend. And Tarkan, I didn't see you in there as well. AMP. We'll run for another couple of minutes. We can get a few of these. But this is going to be it for us, guys. We're going to look at AMP, XLP, of course, Grivaldo, and then I'll do ADA for you, Ankit. How about that? Right, okay. So what one? So may not be listed on here yet, potentially. Lighter, Grivaldo. We've got the stop. Let me know if you can find the ticker, mate, and we'll come back to that one. Let's take a look at XLP. Do you mean XRP? Or hang on, have I misread that? XPL, sorry, XPL. Let's have a look here. Right, okay. Line in the sand moment here. This is supporting price, bullish gap on the daily, which is okay. I think that's all right, as long as we continue to kind of hold this. Yeah, well done, Jojo. Oh, yeah, I can't either. I'm not always the best at that, right? But I'm glad. It always makes me feel better if you can't as well. Right, equal highs over here. Going to be a nice drawn liquidity. Broken out of here, set the bullish order here at a demand area. Quite simply, I think not the worst asset to look to long here with your risk below this low. Again, not suggesting that you just bang in here and long this. We'll look at it on the lower time frame as well. We set this order of demand here. So looking at this in reverse, if I saw price do this, price close below this low and move below this high, meaning we'd have a structural shift to the downside and then a breaker area to return to. If we got this kind of move, for example, I think that's when we could look potentially to kind of come down into these clean lows in here. Yeah. While we hold this, I would just be looking higher, in truth. In terms of plays for that from here, there's nothing really on the 4 hour. Okay, hourly's nice here. Actually, a lot of stacked liquidity up here. These highs are price is going to be really hungry for those. So for your lower time frame traders, people like me, I'd be looking here on this hourly and saying, okay, do we get a retest of this? Price closed above, retested this here. I'd either look for a retest of this level. Done these in green for you guys, haven't I? So let's keep with that. Retested this level to push up, and then again, any of these kind of bearish candles that we create on the way down, I would just look for them to offer support as we kind of stack this up, moving for these equal highs above. I would definitely pay attention to this as well. Is that, I think, pretty equal highs here as well, right? So a couple of key draws on liquidity higher, which is quite nice. So looking at those, we've got the origin of this breakout here. We've got a really lovely breaker candle in here as well that could offer support. So I would look to take some low time frame longs from here, stop loss below here, move back to the daily and say, okay, if we close below this area on a daily scan and follow this plan, then I think we move lower until that we retain a bullish bias aligned with our high time frame read. Lighters in the airdrop phase. Okay, yeah, so probably won't have a chart available on TradingView yet, my friend. Okay, what else did I say that we would cover? I said we'd do AMP and ADA. Okay, AMP. Cool. Wow. That's a lovely level there, look. Right, going all the way back to here, support through here, lost this, resistance, 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 found support through here, support through here, support here, support here, support here. So this is a really key level. Yeah, this one here, I like this. So on a daily scale, I think runs of this and this here could be a great opportunity here to get involved in this one. There's a lot of upside potential for this if it stacks fundamentally as well. Nice, this is our support line. That's what we would look to do. If price is just too bullish and wants to front run this, this is just such a key buy zone. I'd be very careful of this. Look, price running this level again, taking liquidity from that low, massive pump. It's left this low here as a big tease, I think, and to kind of see what kind of reaction we get down here. So I would love to see some reaction down here. If I was looking at this in terms of looking for something to happen sooner, the first point I would want to see is price inverting this bearish gap. Yeah, so price closing above this, using this kind of area as support. But in truth, we'd still have no structural recovery in here at all. So the safer plays would be to wait for, as a minimum, I would say, for this. This is for how I trade as well, obviously, guys. But again, interested more down here, right? Or to see these kind of stronger moves and then look for that move higher from there. ADA. Right, daily, let's have a look. Where are we with good old ADA? Coming into these lows here. Quite nice for a little liquidity sweep through here, I think. And we look at that, kind of got a little bit of local liquidity here. But again, this is very similar here, right, where we kind of just lost structure here off this lower high. We got this bearish gap sat a top price at the moment. Very, very difficult to long into these, right? So I would, again, wait for this to be closed above and, you know, pretty much identical to what the previous one was here. Looking for price to shift that above, yeah, set that and then look for these areas to hold and then price to push up from there. If I was looking for long positions, just looking through here a moment, see if we've got any more confluence. This consolidation here led to a really nice move higher. Price then retested this area here that then led to a nice move again. So we do have a little bit of extra confluence in here from this. So I think favouring longs from sweeping this low and holding this area. If we close below this area here, I'd expect us to move on these lows. The confirmation play would be a close above here, aggressive longs from here, but confirmation of those with the structural break that would take place, obviously moving above here. Retest of this level would then be for buying. What have we got? Dot. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are going to look similar, right? But dot is exactly the same here. We're holding this gap here. We haven't really swept any significant lows. Any continued upside from here would need to, first of all, take care of this. And then I would be looking for it to get above here as well. In terms of buys from lower down, probably this consolidation, I would think, is the key area kind of controlling this move in and around here. In terms of looking for an area of support, if we did obviously get that move down lower, I'd want to see some recovery here from dot. I think there's some great potential for this thing to absolutely rip, by the way. But yeah, I'll have a look at that one. I will take a look at that, mate. I'll share it with KZM as well, get his thoughts. So as we look above here, we've had a rejection of this high at the moment. Again, seeing price aggressive, closing above here, looking to target into these highs. But a close above here, I think we could be looking at a much nicer recovery here, especially taking out these highs that led to this larger sell-off. We can see that consolidation as well playing a part. So closing above here, retest of this, I think this is where we can pump up from. And last one, guys, INJ. I quite like INJ here just because as soon as I look at the chart, I can kind of see some key resistance kind of and support here, right? If I just look at the wicks. Yeah, resistance. I mean, even, you know, you could make it a little bit wider, I suppose. and draw it kind of back to this area here as well that was offering support. It's a little bit of a wide area for my liking, in truth. But, the whole idea here is just looking at, okay, well, where were the key rejection here? Focus on the wicks. Yeah, so resistance through here, support through here. We're now back in this area here. So this is one I would consider some slightly more aggressive plays on here, because we have swept some key lows, unlike some of the other assets we were looking at. We obviously taken that out. Again, our confirmation setups, which have been working really well for us, we would need to get back above this area here. Yeah, so we do have this bearish gap above us here that we want to be aware of. But I do like what I see in terms of the potential for kind of what I call feathering into positions, right? Which is taking trades on a lower time frame at the extremes, and if they work out, then getting this and looking to move this higher. So the 4 hour here, if I was going to be super aggressive, then not really seeing the key expansion at the moment. But let's take a look. In here, we would have this as the breaker. You can see how that's suppressing price at the moment. I want to see a strong close above this, and then retest of this area on the low time frame to take those trades. But I would look to secure them pretty early, because we are still ultimately bearish through here. But that, again, if you don't want to be waiting on the daily for full confirmation above here, we are at these extremes. We are at support down here. So any nice breaks of structure through here, some strong impulse moves returning to this area, as long as we hold on the lower time frame, that could be the play, but we do need to approach this with caution. All right. Awesome. All right, guys, look, thank you very much. A little bit of a longer one today, about an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes, but hopefully it was of value to you. This is certainly where my thought process is at the moment. Please do remember to keep your eye on the markets as well, and market news, as we covered earlier. Take a look at what things like the NASDAQ is doing for the day, what ES is doing. These are the S&P 500, is ES, NASDAQ. Obviously, we've got this on here as well. We can see how supremely bullish this beast is at the moment. That's normally quite good for risk assets. We do have a little bit of a mixed bag across here, because we can see that the dollar index is up for the day. Yeah, so favoring the dollar, that's normally not the greatest for risk assets, but ultimately it's fine. VIX is down for the day as well, meaning that there is maybe that little bit of breathing space to the upside. But what we're seeing at the moment is markets look pretty healthy. Crypto's, looking like making some recoveries. So hopefully some of those levels are worth keeping an eye on. All right, guys. So thank you very much for joining me today. A big shout out to everybody, our fam over at the Bird Nest, our fam over at OKX, Binance, all of you wonderful followers and that as well. Please don't forget, right, do come and grab me a follow over at BC_Richfield. You can always find our wonderful trading community there as well, the Bird Nest. So you can find me here on Twitter, just BC_Richfield. Come and reach out. I do share a lot of stuff on there as well, and you can always reach out to me through this as well. All right, guys. Hey, Whack, how you doing, mate? Really just in time for the end and just before our live trading session. So, members, we will be live in about 15 minutes once I've shoved a sandwich in my face and made a cup of tea, and we will be in the charts looking at the NASDAQ today and potential trade opportunities intraday. Got some interesting stuff to cover. So, for those of you legends, I will see you with the members over at the Bird Nest for our live trading show in about 15 minutes. As for the rest of you wonderful people, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a fantastic week ahead. Be good to yourselves, be good to one another, and I look forward to seeing you all on the show again on Monday.